And last year, Australia lost tens of thousands of small businesses employing one or more people during the pandemic, according to our next guest, Bill Lang, Executive Director of Small Business Australia. They're facing greater hurdles this year. Good morning to you, Bill.
Good morning, Janie. G'day, Tim.
How are you, Bill? Look, let's just start with Western Australia. He just got this wrong, didn't he, Mark McGowan?
Well, look, I think the biggest disappointment is that at the same time as deciding to go into the lockdown, and we're certainly not health professionals, and we've not seen what the health advice is with respect to these lockdowns, but having decided to do it, at the same time making clear to all the small business owners that they would be compensated. And as your last interview said, it's for very small businesses throwing out a few lettuces, the $2,000 might help, but it doesn't help the $150 million. And I think this has been a bit of an ongoing issue that we've had with pretty much, most state premiers, is clarity and comfort for the very small business owners who have borne the greatest, financial, economic and health costs with respect to the stress they've been under, that there is going to be adequate compensation made available, particularly in WA. It's a very profitable state with all the iron ore that they're selling. They've got plenty of money to actually help these small business owners not be further out of pocket.
And Bill, what impact has the end of JobKeeper been so far for small businesses?
Look, I think one encouraging thing is that compared to how many small business owners were thinking a couple of months ago with respect to what they thought they might have to do, that it hasn't turned out with respect to some of the research that we're reviewing at the moment to be as bad as it looked like it could be. But there are still many that are struggling given the industries they're in, the size of their business and the location of their businesses. So, the good news is it hasn't been as negative as the research a couple of months was indicating that it's going to be, but there still are a group, and that group is in, probably 100,000 plus that still need direct help from a combination of the federal and the state governments getting together, the so-called Team Australia, to help get those businesses, through to 22.
Bill, look, none of us are health experts. Of course we're not. But as Executive Director, when you look at what's happened over the past, say, 8 months and look at some of the way the different state governments have handled different situations, look at Valentine's Day in Melbourne, look at this in WA, in contrast to what happened at Avalon in New South Wales, some of these decisions have cost a lot of money, and a lot of people think it's needless.
Yeah, look, Tim, it's a very good analysis that you've done there. And one of the real things about it is the impact that it has on the confidence and the decision-making that not only citizens can make, but also these business owners around. Like, could there be, if there's another couple of cases, an instant lockdown that take place, like we've just seen in Western Australia, or what we saw with the Valentine's Day lockdown here in Victoria, without any warning? And we don't hear directly from some of the state governments that says, look, if this sort of thing happens, this is what we're going to do. You have people thinking about, well, I travel interstate. What are the risks of potentially being locked down or having to come into hotel quarantine when I fly back? So the ongoing uncertainty around how will they make the decisions? What's the early warning signal on this stuff, as opposed to this sort of absolute epidemic of fear that continues to be spread by these actions, amongst the citizens and amongst the small business owners.
We heard from Treasurer Josh Frydenberg this week, the pre-budget speech, a lot of focus on jobs. They're anticipating up to 200,000 jobs. We've also got the Tasmanian election today, Bill, and again, jobs, one of their main issues. But how feasible are we looking at in terms of the 200,000? And again, Josh Frydenberg saying he wants to see that 4% unemployment rate. I don't think we've seen that since the 70s.
Look, I think health and employment are both related. Like, if you don't have a job, you're very stressed. You've got a whole bunch of issues from a financial point of view that impacts the health system. So, a healthy economy as well as a healthy population go hand in hand. And the federal government has done a great job with some of the initiatives they've done since the start of the pandemic, over and above JobKeeper, but in terms of stimulus to make it easier for people, employers, particularly small employers, to bring on people. And they made some great changes only a couple of months ago to further extend that out. So what we'd like to see is more of that taking place, more direct help to let the private sector, the small business owners in particular, to bring people on and to retrain them, because there are a number of people now, very hard workers, but in terms of demand for, the skills that they've got, that's fundamentally changed. There's demand for skills in other areas, but we need, significant and straightforward assistance to help the businesses get those people trained to bring them into those jobs, and particularly the jobs of the future.
Yeah, and there's a very tangible way for people watching this program this morning to help, is to isolate where their money's being spent and try and spend it in small business, because they need your help. Thanks for coming on, Bill. Always a great chat. Enjoy your weekend.
Yep. Thanks very much, guys.